thanks for the introduction, and again, thanks Chief Louis and everybody else who welcomed me and brought me over here. It's a real honor and a pleasure to talk, especially at this occasion, which is for the students and for the people who have graduated from high school and from post-secondary. And obviously it's something that's close to me. It's my own work. I teach at the university in Victoria, and running a Native-oriented program for Native people. It's really good to see, when I was looking through the program, so many people from your nations who are graduating and going on to do higher education. There's some people sitting here in the front row that are going, and hopefully going to be PhDs as well. There's, as was just mentioned, there's Joanne Archibald, who got her doctorate of education last year. There's also someone who's been around a little bit longer, Doctor of Education as well, Richard Atleo, who's a Nuchano, who was at the University of British Columbia and is now at Malaspina College. And there's one medical, actually there's two medical doctors, one Simshan man who just graduated and is doing his medical residency in Prince Rupert. There's a woman named Nadine Karen, who is from Interior Salish, who graduated with her medical degree last year and is doing a residency. Problem is, medical residency for surgery takes 7 years, so they won't be practicing for about 5 or 6 more years. And then, as was mentioned, my girlfriend, who's with Soden, will be finishing next year. So there's a couple of people who are pretty advanced in the education field. But I'd like to talk to you for about half an hour, just for those of you that are planning on your meal time and your schedule, about some of the experiences that I've had. And I talked to some people yesterday, and it seems that a lot of people are concerned to know what it takes to go as high as you could go in education, and maybe relate to you some of the issues that I had to deal with in going all the way through the system and making it to a PhD and then eventually teaching in a university. And some of the things that I think are important, not only from my own personal experience, but also looking at a lot of the students that we have at this time and some of the issues they have to deal with. Because my commitment and my belief is that the education of our young people, and I'm not just saying this as because it's a nice thing to say, but I'm thoroughly convinced that the education of our young people towards a higher education is the most important thing we could do. It's more important than treaty, it's more important than economic development, it's more important than anything else. Because one of the main reasons that our people have suffered and our nations have lost our land, our culture, and our governments over the years is because our people couldn't really compete with those people from the outside who took those things from us in terms of our education and the way that we confronted them. And so it's one of those skills that I think is just as important as anything else. If we think back in the way we used to defend ourselves before, and this is pretty much common in our nation, and I've sort of adopted this philosophy myself. If we think back in the way we used to defend ourselves as people, we used to use all of the resources available to us. Physically, we had wars as people in trying to defend our territory, and then we tried as individuals using our own power, whatever way we could, to stand up to whatever was brought to us to try to harm us. And the lack of education and the type of word games that people play and the type of legal maneuvers and the type of knowledge games that people play are one of those things that's just as much a threat to our people as any one of those other things that happened in the past. So when I think about it, and I've talked to a lot of people in my own community, from this high up to high school and college, I try to get them to think of education as a modern weapon that we need to defend our people. If you think of themselves, a lot of younger people, and I know I felt the same way when I was younger, thinking of themselves as warriors, and this is really pronounced in our community, thinking of themselves as warriors, and it's their responsibility, the young men and the young women, to defend the territory, to defend their people and their elders and their children. Well, the only way to do that these days is to educate yourself that you can confront them and beat them at their own game. And that's why I'm so convinced about education. And that's why, coming from a background that I came from, which is probably similar to a lot of people here, not really appreciating the value of education when I was younger, even in my 20s, not valuing education to the degree that I do now. But once I got into politics and once I started traveling across the country and then even into other countries, seeing what was necessary for us to really accomplish our goals, it just became so important and so ingrained in my mind that really what I needed to do was to educate myself and then to bring that to other people and try to get other people to bring that into their lives as well. So when I think about education, what I'm talking about is not just education in terms of the white man's way, if you want to put it that way. It's not only educating yourselves to the book knowledge, to the ideas that are out there, to the type of concepts and ideas that people have in universities or high schools. It's also having a real appreciation for and an ability to translate and use the knowledge that is in the minds of our elders sitting right here, and in the traditions of our people, and the wisdom of our culture. To me, you can't separate the two. And when someone asks me if I'm proud to have a PhD, I say, yeah, I'm proud to have a PhD, but only for one reason. Because the PhD, to me, signifies that I have spent some time, and I have come to understand a little bit about the ways of our people. Because that's what I did my PhD work on. All my school has been focused on understanding what it is that our people, what made our people strong before. And what can we take from the past, what can we take from our culture to make our people strong again. So when I think about a PhD, that's what it is for me. It's that I've spent that time learning a little bit about that so that I can bring it to other people and write about it and speak about it and bring it to our own people and convince them that our ways are as good or better to take us into the future as any of the ideas that are out there right now offered by other people. So that's the commitment that I've developed, but it didn't happen. I didn't have that from the beginning, and I don't think any of our people back in the 60s and the 70s had that understanding of how important it was and what we needed to do. So I just give you a little bit of a background on our community before I talk about my own experience in education. But our community was pretty much like a lot of other Native communities in that we suffered the social, economic, political, we call it disruption, or dysfunction is the fancy word, but basically we weren't healthy. We didn't have our power, and we had that taken away from us. And I remember very vividly in 1973, which was a turning point for our community, a turning point which was that some people began to take traditionalism, that's the fancy word, traditionalism meaning that they start to put stake again and start to value what it was that our elders were teaching us and all of the lessons and the knowledge in our traditions. They started to take that seriously. And not only take it seriously and understanding it and starting to believe it, but starting to act on it. They started to use that as the whole framework in what they made decisions. So when they thought about what was right and wrong, they thought about it in those terms rather than what the white society was telling them what was right and wrong. And so in 1973, our people began a long struggle to take back control over their own education system, to take back control over their land, over their government. And it brought a lot of trouble into our community. One of the earliest memories I have in 1973 was in a riot that was taking place between the more militant people, we call the radicals in our community, taking on the police, the provincial police in Quebec and then the RCMP. And that was a big fight over who had control over our community, who had the right to police our community, and who had the right to make decisions in our community. And I remember that very vividly. It was a very violent time and it made a big impression on me. And at the time I didn't really understand it. But as I grew older, and into the 70s and into the 80s, I understood it as part of that process of taking control. And not only that, the process of beginning to try to understand and make those values, those traditional values and those principles real in their life again. To not just talk about it, to really work with it and to make it part of their life. And so our community has been very strong. Among others, there's a lot of other communities in Canada that have done this, but they have been very strong in putting a focus on education of our young people as that weapon that's going to be the one that allows us to succeed in confronting all of the attacks that we face from the outside, politics, legal, physical, and otherwise. And so in 1978, our people pulled all of the school children who were in high school in the neighboring non-Native community out of those schools because they weren't being taught history and they weren't getting this kind of support that they needed to get. And they formed their own high school. It was called the Ganawagi Survival School. And it was one of the first times that a Native community in Canada had taken charge of that level of education. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't something that went smoothly at first, but it was a very significant step because it told our people, and it told a lot of other people, that we value what we know and our way of knowing, and we're going to teach our children in that way. And soon after that, it followed where we took control over the primary education and all the levels of schooling. Right now in our community, we have a Mohawk immersion program where the little kids from the time they enter school at kindergarten level up to grade 6 can go in full Mohawk language and also learn the basic skills that they need to go into and compete in the outside society. And so the philosophy that's in our community is one that I referred to earlier, of having the skills that you need to go and confront in the outside society, but also remaining rooted in the values of your own tradition and your own culture. And so I and people my age were a little bit behind the curve as far as being able to benefit from that. By the time they did that, I was already almost finished high school. And so the little kids that are growing up in our community speak Ganyageha, our language, fluently. So we have this gap in our community between the elders, people over 60 years old, and people under 12 years old. They're all fluent in Mohawk, in Ganyageha. And all of us between 12 and 50-something are very, very tentative when it comes to the language because we didn't have that. But you can see the transformation in the community. And the reason that I point to education, and I'm convinced that education is the key, and this type of education, this particular view which puts just as much importance on tradition as on the modern skills, is because I've seen with my own eyes the transformation in our own community. When I grew up in the community, I referred back to earlier about how it was just like every other Native community, in the worst sense and in the good sense as well. But in the bad sense, there was violence, there was drinking, there was all kinds of social problems, and that was very evident daily, especially on the weekend in the community. And you could see the hostility, you could see the frustration that people had in their minds. And I think back to that period in the 70s, and I think back now, and I see a massive change. Not to say there's no more drinking or no more violence or anything like that, but it's become something that's very, very controlled in our community. And a lot of people have a lot of explanations for that. But in my mind, and I think in the mind of a lot of our people, it's because of this type of education and focusing back on tradition and getting our people to believe in themselves and developing this sense of pride in our people again. Not only pride to be themselves, but that their way of knowing is the right way, and that their way of knowing and their way of governing themselves is even better than those ways on the outside. And the only reason that we don't do it now is because of the reasons that I talked about yesterday. Not out of any superiority of a different way of thinking, but just because we lost that for reasons of diseases and so forth that we couldn't control. But now is the time to recover it. There's an opportunity, and our people are starting to take advantage of that. And so in my own life, it's sort of been reflected in a similar path. In coming up, I went to a school that was on the reserve. It was a government school, not a residential school, but a government school run by the priests and the nuns on the reserve. And up until grade 6, near the end of that time, in grades 4, 5, and 6, it was run by the Department of Indian Affairs. So it was an Indian Affairs school on the reserve. But after that, my parents had a real commitment. Of course, all this hadn't happened yet with the high school that I talked about. But my parents had a real commitment to the education and education of their children, even though they didn't have it themselves. I think that's why I got it so much, because my father and my mother really believed that before I even knew it, that this was the way to go. So they ingrained this in my head, and so they sent me to school, to a private Catholic school in the city in Montreal. And that was a dangerous thing for them at the time, because they could have lost, when you think about what happens when people go to school on the outside. Sometimes people get lost. Sometimes people forget who they are and where they come from. But luckily, it was an opportunity to go to a good school, but to travel back home every day. So I went to school and got what was considered at the time a really good education, and yet came back and lived in the community and benefited from that, being part of that culture every day. And so when it came time to decide on going further in my education, I didn't have yet the commitment that I do now. I had yet to develop the appreciation, like I said, that this is so important. just like a lot of younger people who graduate from high school and do well, there's probably some sitting here, and a lot of our younger people do well, but they're not really committed yet. This is the solution. There's a lot of things that are way more exciting than continuing on for another 10 years of school, right, Anthony? There's a lot of things that are more exciting than the thought of being a professor, or of being a lawyer, or being a teacher. And so, like a lot of younger people, I had other thoughts. And so, when it comes to my own personal experience, I didn't go to school. I left school, and I joined in the military, the U.S. military, and joined in the U.S. Marine Corps and went and did that for 3 years. And so I think that was another experience that changed my mind, that turned me around. Because if I think back to 1973 and saying later on that laid the groundwork, sort of that put an idea in my head that I didn't realize until later, until the 1980s, when I was in the Marine Corps and realized, traveling all over the world, that there was a situation that was just like where I come from all over the world. You know, there was native people, there was indigenous people, as we call them, who were suffering at the hands of the non-native society, and I was a part of that. I was a part of that non-native society now, bringing that on other people. And it really brought home for me when I was in Honduras and places like that and saw Indian people who looked just like the people sitting around here and looked like just people at home, and seeing what they were going through, and yet realizing that I didn't even know enough about my own history, and I didn't know enough about who I was to be able to distinguish between myself and them at that point, except to look at them. So at that point I had convinced myself that it was time to really think about what I was doing, and to really think about how I could contribute as one person. How could I contribute to changing that? And then all those lessons from the past that I had ignored because I was a young person and didn't really want to think about what the older people were telling me and what I had heard in the community, they all started to come back to me now. So I started thinking about what the old people used to say, started thinking about all those experiences, and then that sort of brought really clear to me that what I need to do is educate myself. All over the world, people would say, "Oh, you're a Mohawk. You know, tell me a little bit about your nation, or say something to me in Mohawk, or tell me about your clans and all this." And I was like, well, you know, I know a little bit, but I don't really know that much. And I almost felt ashamed at that point. And so what I really needed to do was to go back, and just like about everything else I do, and this is another lesson for people, you really have to focus and discipline yourself. And I really committed myself for the next, what was it, about 8 years. 8 years of really focused education in both senses, in the white way and in the Mohawk way, so that I could 8 years later stand up and say what it was to be Mohawk, and to talk about our history, and to really represent our people well. And so that brought me to university. As was mentioned, I went to university, and first thing I did was study history, because I felt like if I was going to know, just like I talked about yesterday, if I was going to know the future and a way to a better future, I better know what was going on in the past first. And that wasn't only Indian history, it was learning about the outside society, learning different views about different parts of the world, and then also learning about our own people and our history. And from that point, I went to do graduate work. Graduate work is when you finish your bachelor's degree. You get your first degree in college. And with that, you can get a good job, you can work in the government, you can teach. But if you want to go beyond that and you actually want to be a teacher yourself, you have to go another step up. The first step up is called a master's. And then with that master's degree, you can do research, you can be a consultant, you know a little bit more than the person who has a bachelor's. Then after that, there's another level called a PhD, a doctor of philosophy, that's what they call it. What that means is that you teach the teachers. So you're the one who has you're on the top of the pyramid, if you want to think about it that way, in education. And I said, well, let's see how it goes. So I got my bachelor's degree, and I thought that's as far as I would go when I went into it. I thought, well, that's enough for me. I could go back home and I could work in the band office and I could do some good. But I found out that I could write pretty good. And people said, well, if you could write pretty good and you're getting good grades, you might as well go further. So I said, okay, I'll do a master's. Then I'll stop there, because I didn't really think about going 5 or 6 more years. So I got my master's degree, and they said, well, you're doing good in your master's degree. Why don't you do a PhD and you can be a professor? And I didn't really even, before I went to bachelor's, I didn't even know what a professor did. I mean, I never knew university or anything like that. But the thought of having a job where I only work 7 months out of the year and get the summers off to do things like this really appealed to me at the time. So I said, okay, I'll stick it out. Let's see how it goes. And as I was saying yesterday, it's not easy. I mean, I'm talking about it now 10 years later. It's not an easy thing. I really salute all the people who are in post-secondary institutions and programs right now, because I know how difficult it is. It's a difficult thing, and you don't really appreciate it until you've gone through it. A lot of people, like I did, said, oh, well, it's kind of easy. You know, you work for 7 months, you get the summer off, and all you have to do is read books and write about them. Well, you know, that's not the way it is. There's a lot of emotional, psychological, and intellectual pain that goes into university. And the only thing that really gets you through is your commitment to your people. See, every time I had difficulty, I always used to think, what am I doing this for? Well, I'm doing it for my people. I'm doing it because I understand it. That's my role. If I'm here, somebody wants me to be here. And somebody wants me to be doing this because I'm the person that's supposed to be here at this time. And so going through and completing a PhD, I found out that that was probably the best thing that I ever did. Because not only does it give you respect among your own people for having understood and spent the time to learn and represent them well, it gives you immense respect in the outside community. You wouldn't believe how non-native people think of you differently when you have a doctor in front of your name. Even though you're the same person. Even though you're the same person to your family and to your people, just having that title and PhD and doctor, that really changes everything for them. And you can use that. I talked about it being a weapon or a tool. And it really hit home for me when I worked at the Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples that was done, the Royal Commission, recently. And oftentimes I would be the only person sitting in the room who was native. I didn't sit in rooms by myself and talk, but I would be the only one who was native. I would be sort of dressed like this, and there would be about 10 other guys sitting there wearing, and guys, yeah, there was hardly any women. 10 other guys sitting there with three-piece suits on, making decisions about our future. Making decisions about what the government of Canada was going to do with, for, and to our people. And I found it really shocking that oftentimes I would be the only native person sitting in that room participating in that discussion. And why was that? Because I was the only native person that had a PhD in government that they thought was qualified to participate in that discussion. That's just the way it is. And so when I think about it, I really encourage all of our young people to look at it in terms of challenging that system. I'm not just saying it because I'm an Indian, but I really think that Indian people have so many more intelligent and eloquent, meaning people who can get up and speak, smart people strategically, politically, much more so than in the outside society. With respect to the people that are sitting here from the outside society, I have to say that. Per capita, if you want to think about it, our people are amazing. Our people are amazing when it comes down to it. If you're sitting there and you have 5 Indian leaders and 5 government officials, anybody who's in politics, tell me, who's going to be the one that wins the argument in terms of making that argument and standing up? Not in terms of who has the power, in terms of money or numbers, but who's the eloquent speaker, who knows, and who has the power when they bring their knowledge forward. And so we need to really develop that. We need to focus on that, and we need to do what it takes to qualify us to participate in their discussions and to convince them that our knowledge is worth something and that our position is right. I'm optimistic. I really am optimistic, because I look around and I talk to so many young people, as I did yesterday, and as I see sitting here, and things are so much different than 10 years ago even. Those elders sitting in the room can probably testify to the fact that the young people are a lot different than the young people were 20 years ago. There's a lot more confidence, because I don't think that the young people were raised with the kind of blocks or obstacles that our older generation had to suffer through. I don't think so. And so that frees their mind. It frees up a whole set of opportunities that weren't there before for our people. So my grandmother, my father, and me, when you look at our opportunities, vastly different. And it would really be a shame if our young people didn't take advantage of that fact. The fact that the outside society has changed to welcome, to a certain degree, what we have to say. It's still a struggle, it's painful and it's difficult, but it can be done, whereas it couldn't be done before. And so it's a responsibility. We keep talking about for the people and all these kind of things, and a lot of people don't really respond well to that, but it is a responsibility, I have to say that. If people really value the nation, if you value your people and the knowledge, if you value your elders and what they went through, and if you value the future of your children, this is the thing that you have to do. And so working in the university, the reason I can say I'm optimistic is because I've seen such changes, such great changes even in the last 10 years. When I went to go to do my graduate work, I applied for funding at the band office from the education administrator, and I can say this now because he doesn't work there anymore, he got fired. But I asked him for funding to support me to go to New York and to do my degree there. He says, why should we fund you? You're not going to come back. Everybody who goes to university goes to the city. And they didn't give me any money. That's the attitude they had at the time, because that was their reality. Everybody who went to university got educated in the white man's way and left and didn't come back. So most of them did. And so I was upset, but I wanted to prove him wrong. I wanted to prove him wrong. And so that's another reason that I committed myself to working for the community. So I'll sort of finish up about telling you what it's given me, the PhD, just to try to motivate a lot of you that are sitting there and thinking about whether or not you want to continue on and go through all this pain and hardship and go to Vancouver, go to New York, go to LA, go to wherever it is that those big schools are, or go to Prince George, for that matter. Because it's still a challenge, I realize, coming from a small community and going to a place like that. But I want to convince you that it's worth it in every way. Not only in terms of an individual and challenging yourself. That's the first reason for me. I think a lot of people don't really challenge themselves enough, to tell you the truth. A lot of our people have been brought up to believe that maybe our people are not capable of doing it. Maybe it's not our way to go to school and to take on that kind of challenge. But I don't believe that for a minute. I believe our people can do it. I've seen so many of our people come through university and given the fair chance and given the opportunity and the support that they need, go and excel and do better than just about anybody else. Where I went and do my graduate work at Cornell in New York, the ethnic group, the racial group, if you think about it, blacks, whites, Asians, and American Indians, and the other ethnic groups, on the dean's list, which is all the students that are doing the best in the university, all the students who have an 80% or above get on this thing called the dean's list. Now, percentage of a population, the American Indians were the best ones. So out of all of the ethnic groups on campus, the blacks, the whites, the Asians, if you took who was doing the best out of all those groups, the American Indians were. Because our people had a good support system at the time. We had a lot of people helping them with their personal problems, financial problems, tutoring, and so forth, and a good support network to give them an even playing field with all those other students who came from a more privileged background. And our students excelled at it. And for me, that's what we need to do. We need to challenge our people. We need to tell our young people that the situation that we're living with is not acceptable. It's not an acceptable situation. No matter what, you cannot just say, I'm going to go on welfare and I'm going to live here. You cannot just say, I'm not going to do anything about it. It's a responsibility. In our traditions, it talks about the young people's responsibility to defend the nation. Well, we're in a crisis right now. I don't have to tell any of you that. Our nations are in a crisis, and we have to move forward, and that's the responsibility of the young people. And so, when I reflect back and think, well, going through all this, what has it got me? Well, aside from the fact that I said it's gotten me a lot of respect from the outside society, what do my own people think? I think the best way to bring that home to you is to talk about the book that I wrote about my community. So thinking back in our history about all the trouble that I spoke about starting in 1973 and all of the OCA situation and all of this going on in our community, I wanted to understand that for myself. And I also wanted to help our people understand it so we can get beyond it. I felt that was my role. And I wrote a book about it, which was the project that I had to do to get my PhD. And it was a bit scary, writing about your own family and your own friends, especially when people are fighting each other on very emotional issues, like I talked about. But in the end, I've got nothing but good feedback and nothing but respect from the people in the Mohawk Nation, who, aside from the fact that some of them don't like their names mentioned in the book for things that they did, I think generally appreciate the fact that one of our people went to university, came back, and now is helping in the process of rebuilding our nation. So I would put out a challenge to everybody to go out to university, to do what you can, whatever your specialty. Not talking about everybody has to go and be a PhD in government. You don't even have to be interested in politics. You're interested in law, you're interested in art, you're interested in counseling people, you're interested in education, archaeology, anthropology, all of these different fields. They're all necessary. They're all necessary because we have been controlled too long by outside people. Our business, our lives, our minds have been controlled by ideas created by others and put into our heads. The big payoff for me in getting a PhD is that I get to participate in the creation of all that knowledge and bringing it back into Native communities. So someone has a copy of this book that I wrote. Obviously, it's going to be influencing the way that they think, whether they agree with it or not. They're going to read it, and it's going to shape the way they think a little bit. Now, this book has sold a couple of thousand copies, and how many Indian people have read that book? And it's going to influence them. More importantly, well, not more importantly, just as importantly, how many white people have read that book and now understand what the Mohawk people are saying when they talk about self-government and self-determination? How many people now have had their minds changed by the arguments in that book? And yesterday I was talking to one of the students who was here and thinking about going on and doing a PhD. And I said, well, if I was a young person, I would be really interested in the power that you have when you stand in front of a class this big of all non-native students, and you get to teach them for a whole year about what's right and wrong. Think about that. Everybody who went to school, like we all did, and had somebody who didn't really like Indian people teaching you about history and teaching you about what was right and wrong, well, turn the tables on them. So I stand up there and I have 80 to 100 students from the first day they come to university throughout their first year, and I get to teach them about Canada and Canadian history and values and all these kind of questions. And then I get to teach them about Indians and what Indian people want and deserve and what's justice and what's right and wrong. To me, that's a lot of power. It may not seem like power in terms of money or being able to make change in the next day, but think about the long term and shaping people's minds that way. So you can be devious and think, well, I'm shaping their mind a little bit, and sometimes I think that's what we're doing, but I think it's the best thing to be able to do that. And that's where the payoff comes for me. To be able to create in people's minds a different future, both our own people and in the non-native society. And so when you go to university, you carry that through. You're in two worlds. The challenge is not only to master what's demanded of you in the outside society, not only to be able to understand your own traditions and your own culture, as if that wasn't enough, you also have to be a translator between the two. You have to be someone who can speak both languages, who can go back and forth, and who can be someone who can translate that knowledge. So it's a big, big challenge. But I would say that our people are up to it. Our young people are up to it. And I'll look forward to seeing many more of you in higher education in the years to come. Nyawa.
What are we going to do now? Got to ask the tribal chief. When he was talking about being devious, I was wondering, is he doing that to you too?
I just wanted to thank Dr. DR Alfred for speaking tonight, and with that we will start supper. It's ready.
What about Harry Pierre? Any more taxi jokes?
I heard a couple of the students talk today about things that our young people are doing. And one of them mentioned beanies. Tell you a little story. These two guys are being in this house, or rummaging around in the living room there. They heard a voice behind them. Jesus is watching you. They turned around, looked around. There's nobody. So they kept rummaging around again. Again they heard this voice. Jesus is watching you. So they took a real close look, looked around in the corner. Here's this parrot in the corner, Say, what's your name? Parrot says, Herbert. And those two thieves, they said, what kind of stupid guy would call his parrot Herbert? And the parrot answered them, the same stupid guy that named the Rottweiler Jesus. And I got that from Karen back there. Does anybody like fart jokes? You got a guitar? Oh, she doesn't want to be disgraced the place, you know. So I'll tell something else. There was this young monk. He enters the monastery, and they put him in charge. They put an older monk in charge of this young monk, and the young monk had a question for the older monk. He says, you know the scrolls that we follow? Do you know if they ever made any mistakes in those scrolls? So the old monk, he says, give me 2 minutes. I'll let you know. I'm going back to the library. So he goes off. And this young monk is waiting, twiddling his thumbs. Waiting. Pretty soon he's waiting too long, so he goes back to the library. And he finds this old monk crying away in the library. And the young monk asked the old monk, he says, why are you crying? He said, I just found a word. I thought it said, celebrate. You know, celibate, celebrate. I was telling them, how do you get down from an elephant? Well, you don't get down from an elephant, you get down from a goose. How many of you have been to the West Edmonton Mall? It's pretty busy in that place, eh? I gave my wife my Visa card. I says, go ahead, spend all the money you want. I should have seen her. She was marching up and down those aisles, just like going. And on me, you know, I broke my ankle last fall, and I was really having a hard time keeping up with her. And I was looking around in that mall, looking around, and I seen these few old people driving around those three-wheel scooters there. So I stopped one of those and I says, where do you get this? He says, oh, we bought that. It costs $12,000. I says, can you rent one of these? I said, oh yeah, right at the end of the mall you can rent one of these. So I rented 2. And I got in mine and I drove around the mall trying to find my wife. Looked in every store, went up the elevator, looked in every store. And I finally found her and I said, well, have you pushed my visa to the limit? She says, yeah. So I said, well, come on, jump on my scooter. I got one for you to drive too. Ready? Okay. Oh, okay. Go on. Right now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you tonight's entertainment. Let's have a big welcome for Sarah and Susie. I'm Chief Harold Prince.
What's the politician come so much?
Oh, you want to step on my back and you can step up? You want me to lay down and I can...
Okay, lay down.
Oh. How heavy are you? Oh, okay.
Get up there.
Well, you got to take off your pack sack first. Oh, I'm sorry.
You leave the jokes to a comedian. Go sit down. We need step. Hello. Help. Help. We never fallen. We can't get up. Gee, I guess we just sit down here.
Put a chair down here. You don't make crazy.
We should. We're stuck. You don't laugh. What if we fall? We say, we're falling, we can't get up. Help.
You get over here. Turn it on. Get over here.
That's Sarah, busting down. Oh, God.
Legs. Look it up. Hello.
Hello. Oh. Don't bust it up. We're going to lose our check. Chief, don't help me. Just help Sam. Don't look at my bloomers.
Oh, goodness sake.
Help.
Get your hands off her.
Are you married?
One woman.
Well, give us a hand. That's hard work, you know.
Oh, goodness sake. Hello. Gee, you smell
You better do your laundry.
What for? I smell like Colonel Sanders. It's a boyfriend.
What?
That's our boyfriend.
I thought it's my boyfriend. Here, you try to steal him again?
We're supposed to share.
There's my boyfriend. Oh, boy. Hey, he's
I
good.
tell you, it's our boyfriend.
Shucks you, where you get that? You leave him alone. I tell you something. Long time ago, the Indians started to get that chicken store. Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Us Indian, we don't know what kind it is. We don't know which way to say our language. So we call it that white man gross.
Uh-huh. Well, that's right.
Everything tastes like chicken. Me, I think gonna be good husband. Oh boy, I got excited. He come to town. What do you do?
It's stuck. Gee whiz, you got
They
your
tape it
knife?
up? No knife. Oh, I do. Just wait. Gee, I needed that knife for supper. What's the matter
I
with
got
me?
it.
Good. Now listen. See, long time ago, he come to White Horse Chicken Village, 1960. Oh boy, I think I'm going to get new husband. I was right between number 3 and number 4. I had time, eh? So I go down there. I put on my nice skirt. I coil up my hair, my best hanky.
Lipstick, you put on lipstick.
Yes, I got shame, lipstick.
Got no shame, she wear lipstick, just red. Look for a man, her.
Anyways, I just look cute. So I go down there, I sit, I wait for Colonel. Here he come, nice and shiny white man. White suit, white hair on his face, and he got glasses like you. I don't think he got Indian agent glasses though like you, huh?
No, he's not lucky enough. Don't mess around. It's not your business.
That dirty Indian agent cheap, huh?
They're so cheap they forgot to put eyes in my glasses. I don't know what else Indian give them money for.
Well, I sit down there, wait for my new husband. I'm smiling away. He coming just like Jesus, just shining bright.
Oh, God.
He walked right past me.
Dirty dog.
He never even looked at me.
I tell you, that dirty dog.
Just the same, every week I pay $20 to see my boyfriend. What kind he is anyway? I'm gonna give him up. I see him run around town too much.
You'll find them later everywhere.
I know.
Chicken nuggets.
Where's our water? Water? Please, somebody give
You
us
got
water.
water in this country around here sometime.
Either that or Orange Crush, the other one.
Oh, yes, we're gonna be your friend for life. Give us orange crush.
Please.
Please, God.
We can't do the show till we get some water.
My throat's stuck together. Oh, maybe that's the Indian agent tea.
Is this thing on? Hello, water.
Is God up there? Well, I don't think he's gonna help us today.
You know why Indians go like this? Well, they can't see like that, eh?
No. Don't go hunting with Indian who hunt like that.
Oh, baby, thank you.
Oh, thank you, grandchild. Oh, God, please. I hope she don't spit in it. It looked pretty good. Have some.
Shit. Make me drink it first, huh?
Yeah.
Here. That's one. Thank you. That was supposed to be mine.
Give me a cup. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Just wait. We're just gonna have a refreshment break.
Goodness sake, I have to do everything. I got a stick in there, and I don't know what that thing is, and water. Oh, that's good. Thank you, grandchild. It's hot up here.
Just like the commercial, huh? Well, we come a long ways to see you people from Yukon. Where's that chief who comes see us?
Yes, older he is.
Where?
He raised his hand. He raised two hands.
Oh,
See,
that's
I
the one
tell you,
we're
good
talking
glasses.
about.
Yes.
That's the one we boss around. I can't remember him.
Well, he wears different color shirt, that's why.
You passing the band council resolution today?
No, I didn't.
Okay, sit down.
Jamie, listen, good for cheap, huh?
I get nervous when...
Sarah and Susie want new car.
I get nervous when politicians stand up. I think you're going to start to talk. Oh, boy.
Well, what do you think we should have done?
Yes.
You want song?
Yeah, sing me song. I never hear song long time.
Okay.
We're going to sing you a top 10 Indian song in the Yukon, huh? Yeah, you don't hear this on the radio.
Yeah, not even on CBC radio, you're not gonna hear this song. They couldn't pay me enough, that's for sure. Where is it at? Where is he? There's that man.
Chief Louis, I want someone to dance with. Come here.
Come on! Yes. Come on, Chief, you show him how.
Are you married?
Just wait, we gotta make room.
I hope your wife don't get jelly. What, do you need a help
Yes, we
up
don't
here?
got
Come on,
peanut butter.
jump up here. I'm gonna sing good song. You know how the Indian dance? Good, good. The chief should know how to dance.
Well, that's our first time. We don't have to teach them. Okay, you get down. You ready? You turn it on. Audience won't see you.
Don't fall down. She said, get down.
Ready?
Don't touch my purse
You
either.
ready? Yes. Look out. You ready? Okay. Wake up, little souls, hey, wake up. Ah, shucks, wrong song. Well, you never tell them what kind of song we're going to sing? Oh, you tell them story about Champagne Hill? We're going to tell it later. Get on, then. Oh, it's sick. Oh, goodness sake, you sure get down. Good for you. Goodness sake, you sure get down. Hey, hot.
Give me drum. I'm gonna sing song.
Don't blow it. It's my last jump.
Poor Susie, don't get stand. What are you, a big shot?
Yes, I'm a big shot.
I'm gonna sing Indian song.
Well, that's good.
B-I-N-G-O.
Goodness sake.
Sarah, we're at the
Susie.
bingo hall again. Oh, God. Dirty bingo. Yeah. We got, on Yukon, we got to play bingo, see?
Yes, we don't like it.
Gonna be a nice time, sit down and play bingo. We'll go in there. Oh, I sit in the wrong seat. I say, not your chair. And then we mix it up. We do postage stamp. We're supposed to do big X. They said, you missed one. Wrong game, wrong game. Oh, they're just cranky, huh?
Yes, what kind of good time they have.
And then if you win, everybody say, shit. That's what they say. I hear it.
Me, I say, outhouse outside.
Yeah.
And hope they heck they got Simpson Shares catalog. Yes, that's right.
So anyways, we got tired of doing that, so
Yes, we're not stupid.
we'll fix them.
Sure, we fix them good.
Ah, shucks, get out.
You ready?
No.
Come on. I want to play blackout.
Oh, 72.
Oh,
G, 50,
oh,
I, 22.
oh, 66.
2 little ducks. Bingo!
I said it first.
We won again.
Okay, we won.
Nobody get cranky with us.
Yes. And we're always smiling. And we don't say shit. Huh?
Just check.
Yes.
We go there and they say there's 3 kind of time. There's, let's see, carrier time, 1 hour late. In Indian time, 2 hours
2
late.
hours late.
And
Bingo time.
3
3
hours
hours early. Did you hear that?
How much they want? Just like full-time job, you got to be there 8 hours.
Well,
And you're not even sure if you get paid. Which way, that one, huh?
That's a good trick for you, Chief. You want to get your people together, say bingo, 7 o'clock. Community hall. They're going to be there 4:30. Sure
right.
enough.
And then you pass some council resolution, huh?
Uh-huh.
Sarah, I want to show you something I learned.
What's that
You guys
learned?
got rabbits here? You hunt rabbit? Anybody got some? Hungry. And I'm going to do culture lesson for you. Here, hold this.
God. What do you think I am, your personal stand?
Well. Okay, this is your culture lesson for today.
Uh-huh. You're going to learn me something? Yeah.
I steal this from the Cataline.
Oh, gosh, don't tell on us.
Uh-oh, is Penny here? I might be in trouble.
Never mind, Penny might be cops.
Okay. You roll it up like this.
Gee, I don't know which way she tried to make that towel.
Okay. I just checked the snare. I got a rabbit. See? Got to pull out his paws for good luck.
Oh, God.
Put it in my mouth.
Well, open up.
You pull out his paws for good luck.
Oh, God. I knew.
And then you skin the rabbit.
Goodness sake, it's a good rabbit.
Look at him. He looked good. He cleaned out guts and all.
Goodness sake, I tell you.
Uh-oh, his legs fell. Oh, well. That's a good one, huh? Just make me want to get my frying pan. Oh, yeah, my name is Susie.
I forgot to tell you, me, I'm a Sarah. Oh, yes.
See, we write it down there. We got tired of people mix us up, so we finally started to write a note.
That's a Susie X, and me, I'm a Sarah Y. Yes, and we had to get education because when Indian agent give us check, government give us check, we all used to put X. And they don't know which X is which. They mix it all up. So that's how come she's a Susie X and me, I'm a Sarah Y.
I'm still working on my last name.
And she's still a young girl, her. How old you now?
How good say? I forget.
You're 82.
Goodness sake. I sure age
Well, I
is
should know. I'm 92 years old. You're 10 years younger than me. She still got lots of men to go yet, though.
Never mind, I'm going to tell you about Sarah. Sarah been have 9 husbands.
It's not their business.
Well, I just want to know. So, men, be careful here. Stay away, because
I'm not looking for number 10 yet.
what happened is she got tired of her old man. She said, let's go hunting.
Come on.
Next thing, no more husband. And she started to look for another one.
Well, I'm smart. That's why you make me mad.
There's no cops here, huh? Don't drag us out.
Only lawyer. I need good lawyer.
That's one way to settle a divorce, huh?
Oh, yes, that's a good way. That way I keep everything. Yes, only cost one bullet.
Cheap divorce, huh?
That's pretty good. I think I'm pretty smart, man. Yes, that's not funny. That's the way to do it.
I sing song from AT.
Oh, yes.
You know, a long time ago when you're growing up, you live in the bush, huh? Your mom and daddy get worried about you being out in the bush late because they think you're going to get it. They say, go to bed, go to bed. No, we don't want to, we want to play outside. And they say, well, cannibal woman going to get you, she's going to suck your brains out.
Goodness sake.
I know. And the next thing they say, if that don't get you, that giant owl going to get you. In Yukon, a long time ago, that animal, owl, maybe 3 feet now, huh? Long time ago, they used to be about 9 feet tall.
Yes,
They
that's
have
right.
claw, this big claw. They say they're going to claw your eyes out.
Uh-huh.
And they say I never had good sleep for about 12 years. I just worried, I hear hoo hoo. Got scared.
Well,
Oh,
goodness
boy.
sake, you can't go bathroom middle night. Goodness.
No.
How we're gonna get you?
Wet the bed.
Good thing they had moss bed back then, huh?
I was so happy when they moved that bathroom inside the house. Oh
Thank
boy.
God, I could sleep all night then, huh? Yes, I must be 25 years old when we have that kind of bathroom.
You know
Oh,
how to
really?
use it when you see it?
No, we throw a stick in the toilet. Try to push that stick down. Shit, not like outhouse. When you throw a stick in the outhouse, you can't see it. You throw it in the toilet.
Well, what's you looking
it's
down there for
floating
anyway?
around. Stick.
Shit. And this is a song they sing to kids. It says, be quiet, go to bed, giant owl gonna come get you. Real nice song for a kid. You sing it to your kids tonight, huh? And this is my owl. Look at you. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
You did it? This week I got frog. Okay, I'm ready now. Methi kwaya, methi kwaya, hoo hoo, hey hey, hey hey, kwaya, 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 hoo hoo, hey hey, hey. Get down.
That's good enough. Give me a shot of your water.
Broke it off. It's gone. I dump it out.
Ooh, played out. It's hot here, huh?
Gee whiz.
Can they open the window? No.
Goodness sake, maybe they got mosquitoes. Susie! What?
I mean the Red Cross?
Never mind Red Cross.
That's a mosquito. It come get your blood.
Shit. I see they got lots of tourists here.
Yeah.
You hear it?
Uh-huh.
How they sound like?
Seagull.
Uh-huh.
Or does the white man clan too, huh? Seagull.
Yes, there's lots of tourists. We call tourists in the Yukon. We call them seagull. Seagull, they go away fall time, they come back springtime. Just like tourists on the highway.
How that tourist know from Florida he's know just as soon as it's spring in Yukon, he's there? How the heck do you know that anyway? We,
I
the
don't know.
Indian, don't even know when spring is, and yet the white man from Florida know. I don't
And
know.
they don't get snow over there too. Crazy. I don't know how elders live there. God, must be just awful. Bad luck.
Good luck. Good luck, you kids who graduate, by the way. We never went to school, look at us.
Yes, you need to get an education. So then you could be a doctor.
Or lawyer,
Don't be lawyer.
or Indian chief.
Be doctor. Or Indian chief, one of the two. Well, what's that going to do?
I'm looking for your drum. I'm going to tell kid story.
Oh. I want to tell a good story after that then.
I don't like this thing.
Nah. Ah, come on. It's pretty heavy.
So, you kids, long time ago, cat and mouse used to be best friends, see?
What's that?
Cat and mouse. Che, can't hear? Best friends. They're such good friends, they live together.
Uh-huh.
And one day, Mouse got a special present. A drum. And how big do you suppose a drum is for a mouse? Yeah, about this big. So that cat was watching that mouse play that drum all the time. They started to say, what's so great about drum? What's so special about that?
Uh-huh.
Pretty soon he says, I wish I had a drum. Cat say, can I play the drum, mouse, please? No, don't bother, that's my stuff. Don't touch it.
Uh-huh.
Oh, so pretty soon bedtime, they go to bed.
Uh-huh.
And next morning, time to get up, cat laying in bed. Oh, I feel sick. Oh, I'm not feeling right. Mouse is worried about his friend. What's the matter? You sick? Yeah, can't go to work. Go ahead. So Miss Mouse get his briefcase ready to go to work. He said, I'm going to get you some medicine. Okay. Well, as soon as that door closed, chung, cat run to that drum. He started to play the drum. Oh, I like that drum. Sound good. Really good. Mouse say, I forgot to ask him something. We go back on the house. He say, what kind of medicine you need? He said, Tylenol. Oh. He's just pretending he's sick, see? You people don't do that, huh? So, door closed, cat run right back over there, playing that drum. Oh, boy, nice. Mouse walking along, you say, sound like my drum. But it can't be, I told cat not to bother it. But that does sound like my drum. See, every drum got his own voice.
Yes, that's right.
And so Mouse walking real quiet into the house. He walked real quiet into the living room. What did he see? Cat playing his drum. He's like, hey, what are you doing with my drum? And the cat got so scared he swallowed the drum. And they say that's how he got his purr. You believe it? Go open up the cat's mouth. Stuck right there.
It's stuck in there? Oh, God. Well, I better check it out. Oh, no, I won't tell you that one either. I can tell you that one. That's good. That's good.
Is anybody named Irene here? Irene, where are you? Kusua eh? No Irene?
Gee, that's the first reserve I see with no Irene.
Well, where's Irene? Huh? Where she go to town? She's not playing bingo, eh?
Bad luck, bad luck.
Well, what about an Annie?
Any Annie in the house?
One?
One Annie.
Two Annie.
Oh, good,
Can
good,
we get
good.
three Annie, please? Don't worry, we're not going to make you dance. We just want you to give us $20. Gee, that never worked, huh? Oh, we're going to sing a song for you, Annie. Annie's 2 or 3. Is there another one over there? Right there. 3.
Oh, good luck,
Okay.
good luck. Ready?
Yeah.
Good night, Annie. Good night, Annie. We see you in the morning.
Thank you, you people. Goodness cheese. Just like Elvis, I'm going to start throwing scarves. Oh gosh, how are we gonna get
Now
down
we're
now?
stuck. No, come back. Get up
Where's
here.
those chief?
Come on.
Thank you, Susan and Sarah from the Yukon.
Susie and Sarah, give them a big hand. All the way from the Yukon. Now, where's it? You're gonna dance this time.